Welcome everyone to our weekly webinar where we're learning together about the latest real estate trends during the pandemic. Today we're sharing the big news. We are at Propy announcing a partnership with one of the most innovative companies in mortgage space, LoanSnap. We are joined here by Rich Harkwell, who is the Chief Mortgage Officer of LoanSnap. Rich Harkwell is a 30-plus year veteran and innovator in the financial services industry. Midway through his career and drawn to the emerging online lending space, Rich now is a part of a startup, LoanSnap. He used to be with Citi and a number of great companies before. So today we will discuss the potential of a mortgage crisis, as well as the future of home buying overall, what is Rich view on that, and how smart loans and automation in transactions will change the home purchase, as well as we'll get into more details about the partnership itself, of course. So Rich, thank you so much for joining us today. Could you please share what is the vision and mission of LoanSnap?
Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me, and looking forward to having a great conversation today. And yes, the vision of LoanSnap, when you look at the mortgage industry and how it's approached offering mortgages to a customer, it's been really geared towards some of the very typical ways of looking at interest rates and fees and the different loan programs, which are really more about kind of the industry and how it works. And LoanSnap's mission is really focused on improving the financial health of our customers and all of those home buyers, people who will refinance. And so our mission is to really take a look at the total financial picture of a consumer and to make sure that we understand that before we jump into the details. And so it's about saving money to make sure that the consumer is not losing money going through some of the old traditional ways. And we really are very focused on the impact that we have on both saving them money and giving them the opportunity to reach their dreams, which is buying that new home and doing it in the most efficient, easy, simple way as possible. Because as we all know, the mortgage transaction has been a very complicated transaction and has taken a long time. And so we're on the mission to save consumers money and also put their money to work in a fast, efficient way.
Awesome. And we'll be very excited to show how exactly it works for agents, for broker owners, how it works, the LoanSnap itself, the product, and then how it ties into the mission of Propy, which is automation of the transaction. But before we get to those little demos, let's discuss the market situation from the mortgage perspective. With the strength of the current housing market growing every day and more Americans returning to work, a faster than expected recovery in the housing sector is already underway. Regardless, many are still asking the question, will we see a wave of foreclosures as a result of the current crisis? Are we expecting something similar to 2008-9? Thankfully, the research I got into, besides the negative ones, also it shows that the number of foreclosures is expected to be much lower than what the country experienced during the last recession. And this is because the home buyers were able to build more equity. So the housing market, homeowners are in much better position than many may think. According to John, I have here some numbers. According to John Burns Consulting, over 42% of homes are owned free and clear, which is a huge number, close to half of the homes here in America, meaning that they are not tied to a mortgage. Of the remaining 58%, the average homeowner has $177,000 in equity. That number is keeping many homeowners afloat today and giving them options to avoid foreclosure. So equity is growing, jobs are returning slowly. So the perfect storm for a wave of foreclosure is not probably realistic, even though we're also waiting for the mortgage vacation to be over and see if this will provoke some wave. So could you comment on this, please?
Certainly, I think you hit on the key point there. Going into the pandemic, the consumer was in a much stronger position. They were financially in a stronger position. Their homes and the equity that they had there, were a much stronger position. So they were well positioned to at least weather the situation as it hit. But this was certainly a unique one and presented a lot of challenges. I think on the support side, certainly the lessons that we've learned through the prior financial crisis, the government, the supports that we needed, they had experience in the things that they had to address, and they had an understanding of the challenges that this would present, even though this was very unique. So I think the reaction was much quicker to this, and it had to be because this happened so suddenly. It came on so quickly, whereas the financial crisis, it did play out for several months prior to it then really unwinding. So I think the consumer being in a better financial position and that equity has helped them to weather this and the supports that they've gotten. The challenge that we don't know is kind of how this plays out over the coming months and years. Yes, we're seeing jobs coming back, people navigating this pretty well through the supports, but you get second and third waves here, and that's going to present some challenges. But the low interest rate environment is very healthy. People are taking advantage of that right now and restructuring as quickly as possible. So we've got a huge surge of volume within the industry here. And we're working through that as efficiently as possible, both ourselves and many others. So I'm optimistic that the consumer is better positioned to navigate this, but naturally we're going to have some challenges out there. There will be, there are those foreclosures, and there will be spikes, with that. And the other thing I would add is that, the product innovation that occurred, through this, certainly with the requirements around a qualified mortgage, the products were really set up to be more stable moving forward, and that was in place, for this as well. And so we didn't have the challenges of the toxic products that were out there. And so consumers have been structured into good programs, that also help them weather this.
Awesome. Today, as always, we're joined by my co-host, Willie. Hi, Willie.
Hi, Natalia. Hey, Rich.
Hey, Willie.
And before we get to the next question from you, Willie, Rich, you just mentioned that the products, your product and other products, were ready for this kind of environment that we got into suddenly, unexpectedly. And I remember on the prep talk, you really nailed on why our products now are ready. What made it possible to actually innovate now in mortgage space, transaction automation?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we had so many years of everyone adapting to a new environment, all the regulations that came out, all the documentation requirements, and we saw a lot of negative impacts from that. The cost to produce a mortgage went up, dramatically, $9,000 plus, to put together a mortgage, which is significant. But as everyone's kind of settled into this now more stable environment and knowing, what they have to deal with, the next wave of that, the next phase of that is really the innovation. We've got to reduce that cost of producing that mortgage, and technology is geared to do that. The abilities of artificial intelligence, machine learning, other capabilities to really streamline this process, is really where we're focused on. But also the speed of this transaction. It forever has taken 45 to 60 days, and that's kind of been, the norm out there. And that's just unacceptable. And that's unacceptable for us. Our mission is really to take that down to several days, at best, and we're accomplishing that today. And so we're very bullish on the opportunity out there to really improve the overall experience for consumers in this mortgage process, which is the speed and ease to do it, plus the cost that it takes to do it for them.
So, Rich, that very interesting. And the question I would have is, like a lot of things, you're reducing time and friction, but you're also putting people in a product that's less risky. So that doesn't necessarily seem intuitive. Beyond technology, how are you able to do that, to provide a better product that's suited much more appropriately for the borrower, and remove a lot of the traditional friction points in the process?
Mm-hmm. from the moment we engage with that customer, our first step is to get as minimal information from them, but also then acquire information and data that we can compile together for a full financial picture. And so our focus is on analyzing that full financial situation of the customer and doing that in seconds, so that then we can present an initial offer to that customer with the options that are appropriately structured for them. And so that analysis that typically a loan officer would go through of pulling information together on an application, getting documents pulled together, then running all the calculations of all the different rate scenarios and loan program, and then trying to summarize it into a presentation back. And then when the customer sees it, says, that doesn't hit the mark and I've got to readjust that. We've really engineered our process to solve that problem. And that problem being a very simple presentation of the right solution for that customer that helps them save money real quickly.
Gotcha. And now you obviously have a long resume in the mortgage industry, and we were talking about this a little on the prep call. Can you speak a little bit to sort of this evolution from 2008? The banks had all this new regulation placed on them. It made a lot of the traditional, lending practices that they were involved in unprofitable or very low margin. So that sort of pushed it off the banks. There's still a demand for access to capital. And that was sort of the birth of a lot of these alternative lenders. And you've obviously made that transition. So what sort of things were you seeing going on that led you to get into the space?
Yeah, for me personally, the first thing that really drove me to this space is, just the mission of the customer there. How painful this has been. The time it takes, the documents they've got to pull together, the financial impact it has on them, and so that's personally a mission that drives me every day, and drives LoanSnap. To solve that, improve upon that constantly for our customers. But from the financial crisis. What I saw there is that it was going to take time, for all of these regulations and the operations to be retooled to really be able to manage that in an efficient way. And it's taken 7-8 years, to get to a point, and we still got a lot of work to do there. But I think as everyone saw everything settle in and there was more of a status quo on how the mortgage was being produced and the requirements around it, the innovators, saw that and said, okay, we've got a stable environment, but it's a very inefficient space. And so now this is the opportunity to really come in and innovate this and attack the key areas that are really the big delays. And for us, we started at the beginning of the process. That first point where we engage with the customer, that we do that as efficiently as possible, get all the information necessary to analyze that financial picture completely and totally, and then present the right precise solution for that customer. And if you do that right at the beginning, that starts the whole process. Because if you're missing the mark there and you're not setting expectations right with that customer right at that point of sale, it goes back and forth and has to be reworked and restructured, and that's where the regulations as to how you got to follow that from a documentation standpoint and a disclosure standpoint. If you're not getting that right out of the gate, it creates a lot of rework that you have to do in the process.
Sure.
And I actually tested before we get into the discussion, and before once I learned about LoanSnap from our advisor, the first thing I did is I tested as a consumer. What if I'm buying a house and applying for a mortgage? So really would love to say a lot of positive words about the experience. And this is what we live and breathe here at Propy, also to make the experience of home buying very easy, enjoyable, predictable, transparent. And as you mentioned today a couple of times on prep call, I think it's critical to have speed increase in the transaction, because this is what this is the environment we live in. We cannot wait even like 5 seconds if one button is not clickable and we need to wait. Speed is so critical today.
Absolutely. And that starts at the first interaction. Everything that you do, you set the tone there with that customer. That if you've got those options presented very easily and understandable, and the customer can act on that, efficiently at that point in time, because what's been traditional in this mortgage process is you get information and then it's, we'll follow back up with you and we'll get back to you when we do work on this. And as a consumer, and to your point, that, that's not today's environment. People expect that instant information, solutions that they can act on real quickly. And so that's our mission every day. When you look at the speed of our team and the information that they're monitoring on a daily basis, and the marriage that you have between the operations and the technology team, it's kind of interesting because, the collaborative environment that we have real time to make sure that both the tech is performing the way it needs to be, and that the people who are doing the job can respond to those issues real quickly. It's a pretty amazing experience of that from my standpoint of what we built from an operations standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. And besides the consumer experience, I think it also worth mentioning how important it is to learn about mortgage tech for realtors and for broker owners, because normally realtors tend to work with mortgage providers they got used to, because they trust that with those providers, they will have a smaller rate of fails in the closings. It's important for those agents. They've been working for a transaction to happen for months. And once they're closing, they just want to make sure that the closing will happen, that it will not fall apart. And thus it's so important, realtors, to learn that today technology can allow to make a transaction shorter. Instead of 30 days, I think this is the essence of our partnership, that we will be aiming together to get to, the full end-to-end closing to be shortened to 1 week, initially 2 weeks, then 1 week. And this is why I'd like to ask you, how do you achieve shortened period of mortgage application, and what it is today? What is your KPI, and what do you have achieved today?
Yeah. Well, how we're shortening that today, as I mentioned, it is about getting it right from the beginning and getting that structured so that there is not that back and forth throughout the process, and that we don't have to rework things. The other is the digital platform that our customers can interact with, sending us documents electronically in a secure way. The collaboration as we get those documents and information that we can share back and forth with the consumer if there's questions and issues that we need to resolve. Those things are being done real time with the customer, versus the traditional mortgage company getting a document, it's going into a loan file, a work queue being set up for someone, and the customer waiting, to find this out. And so that wait period and that back and forth, is the thing that really adds, so much time to the process. But it also creates great anxiety for both the customer and the realtor. If you're not hearing information, you're not getting status updates, you're wondering what's happening, and then you're probably making calls to say, hey, I haven't heard what's going on. And so the communication and the partnership, both with the customer and the realtor, is critical to us. And to your point, absolutely, that relationship is trust. And we believe we can solve that relationship of trust both through the human interaction, and we're not about taking that out of the process, but having a good partnership there, but also using technology to bridge that relationship and manage that trust in a much more efficient way.
Fantastic. So what is the period of mortgage approval today, and what is the goal, let's say, what do you envision to happen in 3 years?
Right. Well, we're closing loans in as little as 8 days, right now. And so we've done that. Yeah. And, we have certain segments where we're on average getting the loan ready to close within 14 days. And certainly in a purchase transaction, we engineer our process knowing that when there's a closing date set on that, everything is geared towards making sure we hit that, and that everything is ready in advance, of meeting that closing date. But we also recognize that those things change throughout the process. Circumstances, occur where that may be the target closing date per the purchase contract, but there may be adjustments there. And so, we've engineered our processes and our systems to be able to, readjust and make sure that we're not missing those dates.
Fantastic. Yeah. So our goal at Propy also to help together with mortgage providers like LoanSnap and title companies, tech-driven title companies, to achieve 1 week of closing entirely in digital environment, of course, with all the people and professionals involved in the deal, but they to be invited in one secure environment. So we have a question here from Nick Solis. And by the way, guys here on Zoom, feel free to ask questions, as well as we're live on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Ask questions. Our team is monitoring the questions on social media. So we'd be happy to answer them and ask Rich to address those questions. So Nick is asking, when a borrower provides a document, how are you able to give them validation that it's the correct document and it's sufficient?
Mm-hmm. So, the moment, so we have our website where the customers go to, and they get notifications that says you have work to do on the loan. And so this is a partnership where, us and the customer have work to do together to accomplish this. And so back to what I was saying earlier, right from the get-go, we're defining that work list of information that we need from the customer, and they get notified immediately. And they log in through the website, and they have a very simple, easy checklist of documents and other things that we need from them. And so as they upload that, those are instant notifications to our team that we have the information, that we need from the customer, which then is reviewed, by our team. And if there are any questions or issues on that, the platform is set up where we can collaborate back with the customer to say, you sent us a bank statement and you only sent us the first page. We need all pages, on that. And so it goes back to an outstanding piece of work that the customer has to fulfill there for us. And so the website for the customer enables them to upload all of their information, to receive status updates from us, and know when there are things that they need to complete. And so these are all things that are going on real time with the customer.
Maybe we should just illustrate how it works.
Well, what I have for a demo is just the kind of the first part that starts it here. And so
Awesome.
I'll give that. So let me to take over sharing the screen here. All right. So, the landing page for our website, just gives the basic information. What I'll step into next. So the first step, and it's just, simple questions that we go along with the customer. Tell us what you want to do, and putting it in ways that are, customer friendly. How may we help you? And moving to into a purchase transaction. And so welcome, collecting some basic information, name, address information from the customer. From there, initially, we're getting just the last 4 digits of the Social Security number to run a soft credit. And so this information, along with the information they've shared, and then all the additional information that we're able to pull from our data sources, helps us to compile this whole financial picture for the customer, and do that very quick analysis within seconds to then present a solution to the customer. And from there, once we have that solution, we get their email address so we can email it to them so that they have it handy real quick, even though, they'll see it on the website or on their mobile. In a new home purchase, what's the address of the home? So getting that for our property analysis. Couple questions just around how they plan to use the home. Describe the type of home. Last thing, finding out then, what's the value of the home, and we put it in ways where what do they plan to spend on buying this new home in customer friendly approach, and then right there, they're presented with who their loan officer is, a quick option in this case that says, if you're looking to put $50,000 down, your monthly payment would be $1,807, and from there, stepping into, if they want to get pre-approved, launching that. And this is where they are connected to our loan officer to get that process started. So these are all things that they can do in a self-serve to get started, or if we get that information as, we're working with you to integrate the data there, that we can skip even many of these steps to then get the customer to the right product options real quick.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, this really looks user-friendly, very easy, step-by-step, wizard-like experience. And I do believe this is how it should look like. And most importantly, the back end really should be empowering and answering quickly the questions, showing the progress, and most importantly, just to get pre-approved and approved in a short period of time, right?
You got it. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Rich. And shortly we will be sharing how this amazing experience ties into products of Propy. So I'll be sharing the screen of mine. So as a part of this new partnership, customers we envision will be able to get faster pre-approved LoanSnap loans when using Propy's cutting-edge offer management. This is one of our 3 products, and it's really the beginning of the closing process when people are making offers with the help of agents. So this will speed up the whole process of buying a home. And we strongly believe this is the future. In 5-10 years, in end-to-end solutions, you will have pre-approved, you will have title clean and title transition to a new buyer. Time is important in the modern world. In both LoanSnap and Propy, we're building products to make things easier and less time consuming for home buying. So let me show how exactly it works. So on Propy, agents are creating a unique link which they put on their MLSs, on their listings. So here's an example of a listing on MLS. Our customer, Propy customer, puts a unique link for offers into this MLS page in private remarks. And then the buyer agents, if they want to submit an offer, they click this button. Instead of sending an offer by email, which is not secure and this provoke wire fraud, instead of that, they click the link and they get into the simple form, very simple form, make an offer. So they fill out basic information of their offer. They put the deposit amount, appraisal contingencies, inspection contingencies. They upload the document itself, the offer signed by the buyer, and they will see preferred services. And in those preferred services, they will see LoanSnap, and so they will be able to select LoanSnap. And we know that when we have multiple offer situations, buyer's agent are preferring to choose the preferred services of the listing agent so that they know that it's an incentive, their offer to be chosen if there are a number of offers with the same price. And thus, it allows also us to communicate the benefits of our partners like LoanSnap on why this will provide a better experience, as well as why we will be able to shorten the transaction period if we work together. Besides LoanSnap, of course, buyers agents and listing agents can list their own preferred services, their own mortgage providers. But I strongly believe that once we start to work with tech-driven mortgage providers, we will be able together to shorten the closing process. So again, this is how it works when you do an offer. This is the page where you upload the purchase agreement, the offer itself. This is how the summary of terms looks like, very easy, and the listing agents don't have to work on those at all because this is all filled out by the buyer agent. And this information goes instantly to the seller. So this is one of the benefits of using Propy offers, is that the seller gets notification by text message right away. I will show shortly how exactly they get these text notifications, but here it is. So this is the message that the agent and the seller receives. Hey, you have a new offer. Maybe they will have 10 offers during this time. So it's an exciting process where sellers can just click, see the offer, see who are the preferred services, and then dive into the transaction if they choose to accept the offer. And this is an example when we have multiple offer situations. So in this house in Hawaii, there are 3 offers, and the sellers have the ability to instantly get this comparison table and really have an informative decision on what they want to address here, which offer they want to choose. And once they accept an offer, we're transitioning to the environment of the closing of the transaction. And this is where we are committed to work with LoanSnap closely to make the closing itself also straightforward, so that we exchange the information automatically between two of our systems. And we have a question here from on social media about whether a blockchain is involved in this process. And the answer is yes. When we do the closing, since the offer is accepted, when we work with documents in our environment, every single document that gets into the transaction process, we hash it, and smart contracts keep the hashes immutably on the platform. Also, in the very end, the grant deed will have a QR code with a blockchain address. So at any point of time, those documents can be accessible by the buyer and the seller, and they can be verifiable that those are the documents that were involved in the transaction and they were not altered. So here is the small demo on how it works, how our partnership is starting, and where it will evolve. And I think that we can get into the next questions. Once we illustrated how it would potentially work, Rich, what do you think how home buying process will look in the future, including mortgage process, of course?
Mm-hmm. You know, you talk about even in the current state, but you know, the future is really more tight integration of all the partners, you know, in this process. You know, it's you know, there's so much information that and exchange that goes on, and coordination, you know, that has to go on there. And so, you know, certainly where we're excited to work with you is to be very tightly integrated into that experience with the realtor and the buyer, and so that it's, you know, it seems to them, the customer, both digitally and, you know, as they interact with people, that everyone is working together in a very efficient way, and that everyone is up to speed, you know, on all the information, and that all the activity that needs to be performed, you know, everyone knows where it's at. So a very transparent and open environment. And in our experience, you know, when you have that, it certainly is value added for the customer, but the experience overall for the realtor and all those involved, you know, back to your comment, is that it builds trust, you know, and that trust is so important. You know, this is the biggest transaction that people have in their lives. And so they want to make sure that they can trust all the people involved. And the most effective way to trust is that you've got good information and coordination, and that when deadlines have to be met, they are met, and many times, you know, you're exceeding that. So, you know, the vision is the integration of all the parties communicating very efficiently together, that what's going on is very transparent and open to everyone, so that when issues do arise, you know, those issues are very apparent right away. And what we have found is, as you surface those issues and those problems, you know, are out there, you can solve them much quicker, you know, because the consumer is aware of it. We're aware of it. If there's a third party involved, an appraiser or a title company, you know, the quicker you become aware of those things, you can solve them, and then you can put to rest, you know, any anxiety and emotion, you know, that comes up in that transaction.
So what does it mean, let's say in 5 to 10 years? How do you see home buyer interacting with the agent, title company, with the mortgage provider? And also we have another question from social media. Will this take years to get all the data needed in the transaction into one place or into a cloud? So.
Good question. You know, the data is all out there, you know, as we know, you know, it's in the consumer's hands. It's in many of the data sources. It's, you know, with the realtor, with all the other parties. You know, there's I don't believe it's years, you know, and years being 3 to 5 years. You know, I don't believe we're very far off on all of that data, you know, being managed in a very efficient way and integrated. with all the parties, out there. But there's a lot of work to do, and solving that is very complex. And so, we're approaching that by breaking down the complicated pieces of it. And that first complicated piece, as I've shared, is at point of sale, when you start that process, that we get that right away, and we get everything structured right away, so that
step.
Yep. So that everyone else that then comes into the process, the realtor, the appraiser, all parties, they're working off the same sheet of music, and it's the right sheet. There's no mistakes that need to be reworked after that. So yeah, a lot of plumbing that needs to get in place to get all this data exchanged in a very efficient way between all the parties. But we're knocking them off one by one, and we're making a lot of progress on that. That's for sure.
Awesome. And you also shared like now the technology in this state that we're able to apply it. So you're applying artificial intelligence, machine learning to make process quicker. We're applying blockchain, which even didn't exist 10 years ago. And it's getting more and more applicable to what we do in terms of smart contracts to become a layer for the settlement. What else do you see really matured as technology that helps us to achieve our mutual mission?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'd add, the natural language processing, in there, because there's so much communication, that goes on in this. And so the ability to decipher the situation, communicate, if it can be communicated in a digital and efficient way, we want to do that, because that's consistent, and we can be very precise, with those communications. And so, the ability to manage communication efficiently with a lot of the tools that are out there, that's a place where we're very focused on. You mentioned the artificial intelligence and machine learning. I go back to one of our core missions is focused on the customer, which is all this data and information around their financial situation, from all their debts, their assets, their credit profile, bringing all of that information in together to analyze that in a comprehensive way, before we just jump into presenting an interest rate and a product to them. And so the ability to do that in a really efficient way and then present the right solution to the customer is very powerful. And then the other piece that was brought up by one of the members out there, that when it comes to the exchange of documents, we're constantly monitoring the interaction between the customer and ourselves as to the information that they've provided, our interpretation of that, how right did we get that, what are the things that we need to solve, and then the communication that we've got to provide to them. So it's that iterative process of constantly learning, so that ultimately we can do this in a very complete digital way, and it's very efficient for the customer.
Awesome. So before we will be wrapping up soon, before we get to the final tips for realtors and brokerages from you, Rich, get ready. Willie, do you have any final questions?
Yeah, sure. One final question. I know that, there's the traditional factors that you look at when evaluating the creditworthiness, like credit score, income. What are some of the other non-traditional factors that you guys utilize as a result of technology to be able to better match a borrower with the appropriate product?
Sure. It is that full financial picture, which includes their debts, their payments, what their income stream is, how those things can be restructured, the interest rates that they're paying on all those debts. And even though they're making the payments on time, is that the best structure for them? And are there ways to leverage their equity to restructure that for them? So when it comes to the underwriting side, those are very, very traditional type of factors that you're looking at, from credit scores to debt to income ratios, the loan to value, all those key things that go into just, can they qualify for this mortgage? But when it comes to putting the right financial package together for them, we look well beyond those key things to really analyze the structure that makes sense for them financially. And some of the non-traditional things that I get into is really the dialogue that we have with our customer about getting to what are their motives, what are their objectives, that they want to achieve, so that we understand those things first before we assume just a solution for them.
Great.
Awesome. Great. Yeah, it's really important question. How do you overcome corner cases? And this is what agents will be also willing to learn, whether there's this level of trust where you will be able to overcome challenges in those cases that are not so obvious. And so to wrap up, I would encourage our listeners, those who are broker owners, get into knowing the mortgage tech, get into testing LoanSnap, check their website, talk to your agents to try new mortgage closing processes. And then obviously agents, whenever you have a new listing, create an offer link on Propy platform. It's super easy. It takes 20 seconds to create a new link. Put it on MLS and start accepting offers through this link. This is how you will encourage the buyers agents to select new tech-driven services such as LoanSnap, tech-driven title companies. This is how you will be able to see firsthand that your transactions will be closing faster. And thus you'll have more time for more important things in your life and in your work. So these are the kind of final thoughts from me in the end. And Rich, how about you? What are your tips for agents, home buyers, broker owners?
Yeah, I think certainly what you mentioned. There may be those who are accustomed to the traditional relationships that they've had, that are more personal one-to-one, which those are great, and that's important. But the power of technology out there today, and the ability to do this on a digital platform, where you're bringing all parties together in a much more efficient way, that's the future. And we're very excited about that, and we're very passionate about building out that experience in a unique way. And so I think the tips there are exploring those partners like ourselves and how we can work with them. Tips are, we want to hear their insights. We want to get their feedback as well. We don't have all the answers. I will share, prior life early in my career, I had my real estate license, and I sold real estate early on, and learned a lot about it. And so I understand how difficult that role is, and all the different things that an agent has to juggle, and all the administrative work that goes on. And so seeing what we're trying to do, my mindset is really taking back to those experiences, and how do we solve those ourselves. And so I think the tips are leverage folks like us, and learn how we're doing it and how we can partner together. We want the input, we want the feedback, we want to grow this partnership together, because we think all parties coming together can solve this problem much more effectively. And I think we all have the same common objectives. It's about the buyer, the customer, and making sure that, if there's problems, we solve them for them. And if there aren't, it goes as smoothly, as efficiently as possible.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, Rich, thank you so much for your time today. Willie, thank you for co-hosting. And we're very, very excited about this partnership with LoanSnap. I hope we will do this regularly by doing some announcement and new releases all together, and showing some KPIs and goals achieved together in terms of shortening the transaction, making the process enjoyable. So once again, thank you so much for your trust.
Natalia, thank you for having me, and Will, enjoyed it. Appreciate all the questions, and thanks to the audience.
Thanks, Rich. Thanks, Natalia.